I know, and then it'll be like right here. Now it's actually you'll see for the first time me.
And now we're live.
And now we're live again. I believe that's called a double live.
It's
because we're live in a couple areas, aren't we? There's my stream. There's your stream, right?
yeah, that's it. Just our Twitches, but
You can always watch it again later on YouTube, which I'm trying to build my YouTube now.
oh yeah,
More than just a video of me lip syncing along to a meme song from 2002.
which also fantastic content.
It's great. I mean, it was for 2007 YouTube. It was the best they had. You know what
How
the
many?
first video uploaded to YouTube was?
I do. It was a video of a kid at the zoo.
Yep.
Was it elephants?
I think it was elephants. It was like my trip to the zoo.
Kid was ahead of his time.
He was ahead of his time. I mean, it should be the most viewed video because there was only one video to watch on YouTube. So everyone should have been watching it.
Just repeat.
Yeah. Man, that was great. Let's watch those elephants again. You remember the dark ages before YouTube? When you had to watch Flash videos on like Newgrounds and
E-Bombs World.
The terrors of E-Bombs World. I remember being like, this is great content. And then I remember being like, I feel like there's a shift here. I feel
Yeah.
like something's changing.
Oh yeah. No, there was. Remember, I would go to E-Bombs World. I'd go to College Humor. Because, I was in college, so
Yeah, naturally.
that was humor
Those are the
made
days.
for me. And yeah, it was basically just sites you went to where people uploaded all these videos. But yeah, YouTube not only usurped all of that, but then it also built the recommendation algorithm. And that's what
Yeah.
was always missing from these websites. It was just, what's the latest video? Or what was most viewed? Or what was most upvoted? It was all very like basic kind of sorting.
Yeah.
And then YouTube came along and was like, oh,
Hey.
well, we know everything about you,
Yeah,
including
I can...
your social, your bank account. Like, I think we could figure out what you want.
We know exactly what you want. YouTube.
And now when I go to YouTube, I feel like I'm always fighting the algorithm. Like,
Or trying to throw it off, right?
yeah, no, like seriously. So before we jumped on the stream, I was complaining to PJ because I stayed up too late last night. And I was like, I don't even remember what I was watching on YouTube, but that's why I stayed up too late. And it turns out it was this rabbit hole of military videos. No reason.
You could
But-
have just watched Top Gun. Like, that was more entertaining.
But now all my recommendations are like military videos. I'm like, whoa, okay, that was like a one-time thing, YouTube. And now, yeah, I have to like redo my algorithm or like
Yeah. You gotta train it again.
retrain it. Yeah. And that's annoying. And
I
like,
get all music. It's all like Japanese city pop, 80s Japanese music recommendations. That's all I do on YouTube is put that on. In the background. Like Donkey Kong Country soundtrack with rain sounds in the background and city pop, and that's it. That's all I do on YouTube anymore.
nice. Actually sounds really pleasant.
It is. Oh, it's very pleasant.
A lot less people shouting at you.
Yeah. I imagine that it's I do every once in a while. I go and look at like what's trending, and it's always the same thumbnail for the video of someone like, and it's like, you won't believe what I found at McDonald's, and then it's a 14-minute video where he only talks about McDonald's for like 1 minute, and the rest of it is nonsense.
There's like this top 10 format, and I think the YouTube owner is it Mashed? But like they always use this like cheesy format of like 10 things you didn't know about blah blah blah. And it's like it's always 10 things you did know, or maybe like 9 things you did and one thing you're just like, oh, okay. But like just yeah, the format is so chintzy and like it's the same like dubstep song playing in the background every time. It's the same like
oh no, it's tropical.
over explaining.
Some sort of calming. I saw an Instagram post today. It was 5 places you have to visit in Japan, and it was really just 5 places they went to in Japan. Like one of them was like Tokyo Tower. I was like, this is not breaking news. Tokyo Tower is kind of a major selling point of Tokyo.
You literally can't miss it. You just have to go.
There it is. And walk towards it. You can see it from anywhere.
It's like 5 hidden secrets of Tokyo revealed.
Sushi. Who knew? One of the first poems, well, it wasn't quite a poem. One of the first things I ever did at a poetry slam in Korea when I was there, I lived in Korea, was about how I feel inauthentic when I'm traveling. And about when people travel, they're like, oh man, you gotta go check this out. And it's like the Tokyo Tower. Or, oh, have you ever seen the cherry blossoms in Japan? They're the best. It's like, yeah, that's literally what people do about these countries. You can go and you can meet a real geisha. Like, oh, it's inauthentic. Like,
yeah, that's why I love having friends. So like when you were teaching English in Korea and we came over to visit you, you had lived there for over a year by that point. And so you're just like, oh yeah, like we're going to go to my favorite restaurant. We're going to go to like do all these amazing things. And like, there's a couple days where my wife and I broke off and we did like the chintzy touristy stuff.
Yeah.
But other than that, like everything was so real. And we also got to meet people. Like some of my best memories of that trip is just like chatting with folks, just in like walking in between bars and restaurants and running into people who also speak amazing English, and I don't speak any Korean, so I feel like such a such a dum-dum. But yeah, just like people everywhere are so kind and nice, and that's something we always lose track of when we stereotype countries, and or like,
I know.
Especially when there's like political strife between two countries, like the people in the country don't care.
Right, exactly.
They might hate your president, but they don't hate you.
Right.
And at the end of the day, like we're all just people trying to get through this world, trying to make it up as we go. Like let's have some fun doing it.
You know, enjoyable things about life. Exactly. And when you connect with someone else, it's awesome. It's wonderful. And those opportunities, like I wish more people had those opportunities to connect with totally different people, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, like speaking of coding.
Oh, we already found a bug, and we're gonna fix it.
I made a comment 4 weeks ago when we last met about what this bug was, and it's funny to show the bug on the stream. I have to delete the database, but this is our where are we? So what's happening is when I initially see the database, which is I need to refresh the schemas. So my current database that we're using is called Let's Try Again.
That's how you know the rabbit hole we're going down into.
Let's try again. So when I run this
Hey,
program,
Whipch.
Hey, Whipch is back. Nice.
Ta-da.
When I run the program, it works. Oh god, it's not working.
Cached?
Gotta be cache. That's what I'm thinking.
It's always the cache.
Not the cache. Not the cache. Well,
That's
this
right.
is the problem.
Yeah.
The first time I run it, I think I just didn't wait for the schema to actually get dropped. The first time I run it, the poems show up. Anytime after that I run it, it doesn't show us the poems here. I wonder what happens if we click read random poem. Ah, that's another problem.
Hit a breakpoint. Oh yeah, didn't we get an overflow here? Or an out of range?
Out of range is the problem here, yeah.
Oh man.
We have so much to do.
Tons of cleanup, and then yeah, eventually we're gonna figure out. So we left off the last show building out this new database where I guess it's not a new database. We added a table to it. We added a table called authors because we had always had a table called poems.
Yep.
And kind of thinking long term, we added the ability for anybody anywhere to submit their favorite poems to the website. And that's great, but we recognize that to do so, PJ then has to go research the author, add in information about them, the author's bio, image of them, yada, yada, yada. And, you know, when this gets to 1 million users, it's going to be very unsustainable.
When I do hit 1 million users, which is coming soon, I'm sure of it. It's gonna be a problem.
So yeah, why not have a table called authors, where you can also submit that information yourself. And if there's already an existing author, then good news, you don't have to. And the nice thing about that is it also cleaned up our code a little bit. We had a lot of hard-coded HTML on that first page, and now it's just
gone.
This. Literally this for each loop. Because, yeah, we can pull all this information from the database now. It's not one-off research done manually by PJ.
Yeah.
But, yeah, after adding this for each loop, now our URLs aren't showing up. So, step 2. Solve that.
So fix it. And then, of course, trying to get this local database to work with my Azure database. And
yeah. So that's the other thing we have to do today. Well, that's really the thing we got to do today.
That's the what we got to get to eventually is actually publishing this, because this version of the website that we have now has not been published yet for 2 months. We've had the new database ready, but we have to fix all this.
Yeah, and so because we have a live database in production, we basically to do this work, we just dropped the database here locally.
Yeah.
And it's like, screw it. We'll worry about migrating databases later.
Didn't
and
we
so
make like 4 databases to just keep checking? Brilliant.
So the good news is we kind of basically got it working. We got a couple bugs and what I hope are HTML bugs, not database bugs, that we're going to debug in this second. But yeah, so now we have to figure out how to migrate our production database. And that's something we attempted once and then just said, screw it. Let's just manually add, I think we were adding a column to our table. So that's going to be the tough part of the stream today. But
that was a day we didn't even stream that day. I think we spent 4 hours together that day just hanging out, trying to figure it out. And by the end, you were like, "We're just doing it this way," and we did it. And then you were like, "All right, man, see you later," and you like signed off immediately. It was 4.5 hours on a Sunday when you spend all week working on all this difficult stuff, and I spend all week, grading papers and working with teenagers, and we were just exhausted,
Yeah, I mean, the irony in there was the goal was, hey, let's learn how to do a database migration so that we'll know how to do it when we need it.
Yep.
And we didn't really need to do a database migration because we were just adding a column. So, like, what? One line of SQL code to add in a column, and it just worked.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it all comes full circle, man. So, I'm thinking, let's start by putting a breakpoint in this for each loop.
Okay.
And figure out why those URLs aren't showing up.
Do one, maybe a couple.
Yeah, I mean, really.
So we want author name to be pulled because here's the first for each loop. For every author in the model page, authors from database. And so then, Lord, I need to bring up the C# index page, don't I?
Yeah, so we know those authors are good because those are showing up on the website. Like, we see their name, we see their URL, or I'm sorry, their image, but then we don't see the poems. So, yeah, I mean, that breakpoint inside of the var poem and author.poems is going to be what uncovers the mystery. So,
yes.
Are those not coming back from the database? Do they not exist in the database? Did we do something wrong with the seeding? We'll find all that out.
We'll know.
Right after this.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, once I get to be an affiliate, there actually might be commercials on my streams at the beginning, which will be
Whoa.
I'll get paid.
All right.
Those McDonald's commercials. All right.
Yeah, so let's run it. Let's see what we find out when these breakpoints hit.
All right.
And then work backwards from there.
Okay.
So yeah, like right now, we can see all the authors from the database. Like if you hover your mouse over authors from database on line 32, just hover. There you go. So we see 7. So we've got 7 authors coming back from the database. So that's good. And you can expand that out by clicking that little caret drop down. And then we can dig into each author. Okay. So pick one and expand that one out. And okay, we got bio coming soon.
Always. That just means she's going to be arriving soon, like Santa Claus.
Oh, but look at that. 0 poems.
That's interesting.
I wonder if that's true for every other author.
I would bet money that it is.
Because, I mean, that explains the problem. Mm-hmm. It doesn't tell me what the problem is, but it definitely tells me why the poems don't show up on the website. Because for whatever reason, right now our code is pulling the data from the database, and we've got 0 poems.
Yeah.
Well, so I'm thinking, let's see if the poems actually exist in the database.
Yeah. Let's make this easy.
And
let's try again. Tables.
That'll tell us. So yeah, I mean, if the poems don't exist, then oh man, the poems do exist.
So the problem is the connection between these 2 tables. Then.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man. Well, that means it's our code, which is a bummer.
That is a bummer.
So let's do something. Let's add in some test code.
Okay.
Because yeah, right now we're pulling the authors. The authors have what's that called? A one-to-many relationship with the poems tables. So what I'm thinking is let's write some code that, like, we could probably do it here on just line 33. We could say something like, well, actually, oh no, because we're in HTML right now.
You could write C# in HTML with Razor Pages by throwing an at there.
Yeah. But in terms of like pulling the data from the database, if that's not exposed in the page model, so let's actually let's jump over to the page model.
Okay.
And let's just do some dirty code. Let's throw it in the constructor, and let's just say, so we're not even injecting in our poems database. So let's inject the poems database in the constructor. That'd be line 27.
Yeah, that's the inject it into the okay.
Yeah, so that'll tell ASP.NET to give us the poem. Yeah, it gives the poem database, and then let's just put a breakpoint. Because really, that's all we need to do. If we put a breakpoint on, say, like line 30, we can rerun the app and see what happens. Because we don't have to create a field just to do this debugging.
No, just leave it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, as long as we have a breakpoint inside the constructor, then we can hover our mouse over that poem database variable.
Okay.
And do it. Just because I'm not sure, do it inside the constructor. Put the breakpoint inside the constructor. Yeah.
There we go. All right.
And let's run it again. So this will show us what is in the poem database. Mm-hmm. And at least lets us know that like our C# model we've created for this entity framework table is valid. Like basically that entity framework is talking to our C# code and there's not something weird going on there. Yeah, so oh, that's right. That doesn't show us what's in the database. I'm a dum-dum. We actually have to call something.
Okay.
So, but still here in this constructor, you can say like var temp equals poem database dot get all data. But you'll have to rerun the app to do that. But
It was get all data.
yeah.
Oh, capital G. All right.
And so now let's drop that breakpoint down to after that line.
I'm just hold on.
All right. So now we'll be able to see the data in our poem database. And because my hunch here is the relationship between the two tables. Like we see the data exists in the poem table. And that doesn't make sense. Oh, wait. That's looking at the author database variable for some reason. Do you have a window called? Yeah.
Temp.
Okay, so there's our poems. So let's just crack one of those open, make sure it's got everything we expect in there. Let's give it a quick eye test. The author is null. Oh.
Oh. Why'd you make the author null, Brandon?
That's a good question. That is a good question. Is the author null in the actual database? Like in MySQL?
We've got name. Do we have author connected to... Oh, yeah. Poems. Hold on.
So there's... I see ID. Okay, so there's author ID.
Uh-huh.
So there is some sort of relationship there.
But author isn't a... Like, we're pulling that from here, right?
Yeah, so this is where there's some entity framework magic going on. And this is kind of what I was concerned about, because we have to figure out the magic. So let's look at our models then. Let's see how... I forget how we constructed our author model and poem model.
Okay.
So there's that ID. And then in poem... Okay, so yeah, authors have a list of poems. Poems have an author. And yeah, I thought Entity Framework did that all for us. There's author ID. And
Is this connected to anything?
so when we were playing around with this last time, we kind of figured out the magic, right? That if you have an object in your model, that Entity Framework will assume that object is another table in the database. And then if you take that variable name, so in this case we have author, and you add the word ID to it, then that's how it maps your, I guess that'd be a foreign key. Oh, just a thought. Let's try this real quick while we're in here.
Yeah.
Shouldn't change anything, but see on line 21 we say equals new list of poem. Comment out equals new list of poem. And like we'll probably get some warnings. And let's run it again real quick. Because we'll have to stop it and run it.
Oh, whoops.
But something that just hit me was, I don't know when this initialization happens, and I don't know the order of operations, how Entity Framework works.
Right.
So one possibility is Entity Framework pulls out all the data, and then we say, new empty list of poems. and we essentially overwrote it. But we'll figure out if that was true real quick.
Okay. So we need to go to the not poem constants here.
Nope. So we're stopped at that breakpoint, and if you just hit the step over button, so it's the yep. Do it again so we actually get to the next line. There we go. So now we can see the authors from database. You can hover your mouse over that because that's been gathered, and we can see if there's any poems. Nope, still no. Okay, so that wasn't the problem. We can we can undo that comment. So that's good, I guess.
That's good. We know what's not happening.
So what is going on?
My brain, my not as good brain, or rather not as knowledgeable brain, thinks that the problem that we're having is that it's not connecting to the name field, right? Or the name property. Because we've got author ID in poem, right? We've got author and author ID, but neither of these is connecting to the actual name over there.
Well, name's not related in this case. Because tables and databases just work by correlating primary keys.
Okay.
So author ID should be the primary key for the author that exists in the other table who wrote that poem. So we're not saying Mary Oliver wrote this poem. We're saying random string of characters and numbers, primary key, that GUID.
Okay.
That's how we're doing the association.
Okay.
So one thing I remember seeing when we went through this was you can manually tell Entity Framework your mappings. And I don't remember if we did that or not. It is strange to me that it sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. I know we haven't seen that on the stream, but literally the first time we ran this, everything worked. And then it wasn't until we reran it where nothing worked.
Yep.
Which isn't good. But yeah, let's jump into the shoot. Yeah, base database, and let's go all the way down to where we have that database context.
All right.
And so we're definitely seeding the database there. We saw that the database got it. Oh, we did make that protected. Oh, cool. Go to the author database and scroll down. Are we doing anything with the author's context? Are we doing anything with the poem context in the poem database? Is there any more code in here?
That's it.
Oh, okay. Well, so what I was thinking, let me grab some docs here. Entity framework. Let's see, foreign key. Let's see how good that Google foo is. No, we should probably do one-to-many relationship. And actually, Google goes, "Did you mean entity framework one-to-many relationship not working?"
I did.
Yeah,
Google.
yeah, I
sure
did. And all right, so this is. Let me pull up. Share my screen. Boop. So this is these are the docs we looked at last time, and might as well share these with the world in case anybody wants to follow along at home. You can also read the docs.
Play along with your favorite science and technology streamers by reading docs with us.
We'll call this entity framework core relationships. All right. So now we can all follow along at home. So, yeah, basically what we did last time was this. Instead of blog and post, we had author and poem.
Mm-hmm.
But we have our public author inside of our poem. We had our public. I mean, one difference here is they're using ints for their GUIDs. I'm sorry, they're using ints for their primary keys. We're using GUIDs.
I wonder.
I don't know if that matters or not.
It should because they're both the same type.
No, because a GUID can include characters. It can only include numbers.
Well, not a GUID's the same type int, but that both keys are the same type.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, like int to int, GUID to GUID. Yeah. But, I mean, something to note. It's definitely something different than what's done in this example. And so that was it. And we were kind of like, oh yeah, that just works. And yeah, I guess it kind of does. But what I remember seeing in here, if we keep scrolling down, there we go, is this manual configuration. So what I'm thinking is we would basically do this, like this, override this on model creating and tell it that that this relationship exists.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing I noticed in this example is there's no more blog ID variable. And we tell it that we have this entity. In our case, it'll be, let's see, poem?
Either
has
poem or author, yeah.
Has one author, and then that blog has many posts, so our author has many poems. So yeah, I'm kind of thinking let's just almost copy paste this code and then tweak it to be poems and authors. And
all right,
let's see if
let me head to that doc real quick so I can get that code. I did find apparently there's an argument about whether a GUID or an int is better as a primary key.
What's this say?
Int has no flaws except the number limit. And like a lot of people are talking about how an int is better because a GUID can eventually, and I'm going to give it to you in our little private chat because I don't have the power to post it necessarily to Twitch right now because you're in control of this whole stream, sir. But yeah. Let me see. But that's that for you. So where was I? Where's my brain?
Well, you are sharing your screen. I don't know if you want your WhatsApp conversations
good point.
shared with the world.
I don't know what my brain's doing, man. I don't know where I'm happening. Okay, so I need to go copy the code. That's what I needed from this page. Good God.
Yeah, scroll down here and let's grab that override method.
All right, right here. We're just going to step into the DB context.
So what we're going to do, we're going to go into the, let's see, any post as one. I think we do this in the authors, in our authors database file. And in here, we're going to, how is this going to work? Is this going to work? I hope this works. Might have over-architected this. Can we do it? Let's try it in base database. Let's see if this just works.
All right, base database. There we are.
And yeah, let's go down to that DB context class.
Yeah.
And so we have on model creating already overridden.
Mm-hmm.
And so in here, let's add in that basically one line of code.
Is that in the code block we're doing that?
Inside of this method, yeah, we're going to add in, if you jump back to the docs, I can show you the line of code we need to copy. So just that model builder dot entity, because we already have that method. Yeah, we don't need that method. And well, that's all one line of code. You see how that semicolon?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, they just put it on a new line to confuse people. So yeah, paste that in and let's tweak this to be our stuff.
Right,
so in our case, oh yeah, and you can bring it up on, actually make it one line of code.
Yeah, that makes me happier.
So for us, yeah, we have a author. Oh wait, no, a poem. I'm sorry, a poem has one author. I'm trying. It's actually nice when you read it out loud.
Yeah.
And with many poems. And let's just run this. Let's just see if it works.
This is always my favorite thing for us. just the best.
Because in the docs, like we saw, they don't have that author ID anymore. And so let's see if this manual mapping works. So yeah, if you move that breakpoint down a line, you can just add a breakpoint to line 30. Oh, that works too. So now, yeah, we can see, let's check the poem database. Let's make sure that all resolved first.
Temp.
Yep. And let's see, what do we have here?
Author's null.
Author is null. Okay. Not concerned too much yet, but yeah, let's see how did the authors from database resolve? And their poems are 0. Okay.
Yep.
So let's go a little nuclear.
And start over.
Not totally start over, but I want to follow the docs to a T, especially since this didn't work. So whatever we're doing right now, it ain't working. And so let's go to our poem model and delete that author ID GUID. And then we'll go to MySQL and drop the database and start over. Don't delete that. Definitely do not delete that.
Okay,
just the author
ID.
Yeah.
Thank you. I was gonna double check before I did anything.
But
I like that like your internal like developer was screaming just now. That's
don't delete the primary key.
That's the most animated I've ever seen you be in our streams for all time. All right.
And so
are we dropping this again? Right?
Yeah, let's just drop it. Let's just because we just tweaked how we're telling Entity Framework to work. People smarter than me who have more experience with Entity Framework probably know how to turn the knobs, do this a little bit more gracefully. But yeah, let's run the code now and see if this works.
All right. All right. I'm giving it time now because the last time I was like, I'm gonna drop it, and then like tried to run it again too quickly. It goofed up. It goofed up a little bit. Okay. Let's do this. Let's do that.
No goofing allowed.
No goofing allowed, as they say. Alright, there's our breakpoint. And let's step over.
And let's see what happens.
Oh, snap!
Hey! Follow the docs. Who would have guessed?
Who would have guessed? Well, listen, to be fair, who would have guessed that the docs would take care of that for us?
Well, that's good. And I assume our poems have authors. If our authors have poems.
I mean, should, right? Like... Oh, temp has 0.
We got 0 poems, huh?
There's just not even anything there.
strange.
Yeah, like when I
Okay,
go
well
here,
let's keep running it. Because let's see what shows up in the HTML. You can just say continue at the top.
oh, this is our other
And
breakpoint.
so you can just disable the breakpoints if you actually
You
want
sure? I feel like it's. I'm making sure it goes through each time.
to.
I'm checking to make sure.
What do we have?
before-
7 authors and 14 poems.
This is. It's actually kind of cool to watch it doing that. To be totally honest. And let's disable that real quick, and we're good. Interesting.
So we still didn't get the URLs.
And I'm gonna double check that it's not cached.
Oops. Always smart.
Yeah, that's not it. It had
So-
it at first though.
Well, let's
Definitely
see. Let's look at the database again. Let's see what's actually in our tables. Because we might just be hitting the same problem. So,
Maybe.
yeah, if you pull up MySQL, let's see what is actually in the database tables. Both tables exist, so that's good. Poems, that looks good. Still has an author ID. Okay. And authors is good. Because we saw the authors show up on the website,
Right.
so we know that they're. And okay. Oh man. So let's go back to that for loop. Put a breakpoint back there.
Okay.
Because that one's weird. Because in the constructor, we saw that the authors all had poems. So if you just refresh the web page, we'll be able to trigger this this breakpoint.
Okay.
So what are we looking at here? Yeah, like what is in? Let's mouse over author. And what's in this guy? 0 poems. And if you mouse over authors from database, I mean, that should also have 0 poems for every author.
Yeah.
Who's an author? Let me ask this. Do we have poems for every author? Like, what is our seed data? Or who is an author in the seed data who we know has a poem in the poem table? I don't want to get a red herring here where it's like, oh yeah, like Terrence Hayes we didn't add any poems in the seed data.
Like all of these in the author database, like all 6 of these, like there's like Martina Spada has poems, and
Oh, okay.
that we don't have anyone in here that doesn't have a poem. We ended up not doing that. They all have poems for sure, because these are all the original poets I did.
So why aren't we getting any? It looks like we hit the same problem.
So we've got what's poems is pulling author ID from they should have the same key, right? So like this GUID here for Mary Oliver should be
Right.
the same GUID in poems.
Yeah, actually,
Should we-
that's good. Yeah.
Let's check if that's happening. Okay, so this is from authors from database, and I'm going to just open up Notepad or something. And then boom, that's hers.
All right, so we got Mary Oliver.
All right, so now we want to check. Where can I check that? No, models. No, not here.
Well,
How about I just...
the database, yeah.
And so it's here for... that was Mary Oliver's that I grabbed? Okay, so
Yeah.
she did Wild Geese. So I need to...
Yeah, this GUI just says blob instead of showing us the GUID. You know, one thing we could try? Can you just double click it? Or what was that open value and editor option at the top?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Oh,
That's weird. How about text? Nope.
it's annoying.
Gives us the binary.
Let's try one more thing, because I got two ideas. The first one being we're still using GUIDs instead of ints, and the docs are using ints.
Mm-hmm.
So that might be a subtle hint that, like, hey, dum-dums, all this stuff with relationship mapping only works with ints. So let's...
Ints. Let's change them all to ints.
Yeah. And is that going to break everything, though?
I mean, we just have to... It's not going to break everything. It's just... we have to find it. Base database.
Actually, just... Maybe we're not touching the GUIDs. If you just rebuild the app... Oh, there it is. Okay. I don't know how to generate a random... Oh, shoot. Let's just leave that line blank. I think any...
The framework will take care of it.
Yeah, let's see if Entity Framework takes care of it, because it is the primary key. And so it's literally illegal for that field to be blank when it comes in. Either that or everything defaults to 0, but we'll find out. Do we have any more compiler errors?
No. Here, I'll rebuild.
Cool. And then I'd say let's drop the database again.
Yeah.
So this is my first. This is idea number 1. We'll go ahead and run this code and see what happens. But idea number 2 is the way we've architected this. We have 2 DB contexts, and that might be what's screwing it up. I might have architected my way out of Entity Framework.
Well, we have it in base database, right?
Correct, but it's not static. So both author database and poem database are referencing different DB contexts.
Okay.
And I don't know if that's bad or not. So
we'll learn.
Let's at least match the docs. We'll run it like this. We're using ints. We'll see what happens. And
breakpoint in here. Let's find out. Okay.
Ooh, all right. So yeah, what are we looking at here?
So we've got count 2.
Author of 2 poems.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, we have seen that before.
Yeah. The first time it says, "Yeah, you got 2 poems there, no problem."
No problem.
All right, and then so it's funny. So I just want to check something actually. Let's see who got there first. Ocean Bong. So Ocean Bong has 2. That has 2, and now it's gonna run through a million times for this. So I'm gonna put a breakpoint out. Can I add a breakpoint?
Well, you could just say continue, because if we see everything display on the HTML, then we know it came through.
Yeah.
And so right now it looks good, and it should.
And then it doesn't.
But then it doesn't.
And again, just to make sure I'm not correct.
So this is where my hunch about having 2 DB context is coming from. And I think we can just put the static keyword on it, and that'll fix it. And ooh, actually, yeah, let's look at these tables now. Let's see if it... Okay, cool. So it auto added that number for ID. which is good. That's exactly what I was hoping would happen. We can see the author ID now. That one's
And
really
look,
straightforward.
and it's connected to it now. Like that's author 7. That's author 6.
So yeah, this is where I'm thinking it's a I was about to say it's an us problem. It's a me problem. Because
Don't
any
drag me into
framework
this.
any framework creates the database perfectly every time. Like even when we had even before we added that line of code to on model creating, it was using GUIDs, like it was still creating the database. And so it's the code that's reading from the database, our code, which is screwing things up. And so that's why I think if we go to base database and just make that DB context static.
Instead of protected or in addition?
Yeah, let's replace. Ah, 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 oh no. Ah.
That's all just accessibility stuff, though, right?
No, it blows up everything. Yeah, T. Oh, man. Tried to be smart.
I still think you're smart.
Thanks, BJ.
Yeah.
Entity Framework's laughing at me, though. Oh, man. So, how can we pass in the same database context? We should probably make dang it. So we could inject the database context into each of these classes. Let me let me do a little Google real quick to see.
Because aren't we already since we decided to use this as a inheritance? Is that what it's called, inheritance?
Yeah, and this is where I think the problem is so again, looking at the examples in the docs, there's only one DB context, and that DB context contains references to both. Well, in their example, blog and post. For us, it'd be author and poem.
Yeah.
And so my concern is that we have two database contexts. So let's try. We can do this. I got an idea. Oh. What's going on here?
What I found? It looks like it's possible.
Yeah. Let's see. Two models. Each one is associated with a particular corresponding context class. Students associated with my student. I mean, that's basically what we're doing. But then they jump straight into migrations. We just want it to work
Yeah, we just
first.
want it to work. It says it should.
So, okay, that's interesting. It at least says that two database contexts is not illegal.
Yeah, it's not. It shouldn't be breaking anything. I just wonder if there's just got to be something where we need to be like, hey, I know there's two, but like there's even a base. Like there's even, you know, the context here. So public my student context base unit context DB public virtual DB set teachers.
So, Yeah, I'm looking at this is Entity Framework, not Entity Framework Core. Ah, that naming.
It's so strange that but that's like all over in programming. That's like everywhere. There's always like something really close, and it's very different.
Okay, so it looks like it's not invalid to have multiple DB contexts. um, so why isn't that data coming back?
It's coming through at first. I think we need to look and see when it stops coming back.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because the first time the code runs,
I'm glad you drum when you're thinking too.
yeah, let's do that. Let's put a breakpoint back into that for each loop,
Okay.
and yeah, let's run it again. Because there is something that we're missing here where we get data sometimes, but not every time, or maybe we get data the first time, but not every other time. And we haven't figured out how to necessarily reproduce that. And
It does make me wonder how it's getting built. Because this for each loop, when I'm here, we've definitely got it. And then down here, we end up having it the first time. How do we figure out where we're losing it other than doing like jump over every time and double checking?
Well, here's something I noticed is that when you had a breakpoint inside of the constructor for index, that breakpoint triggered a couple times. And
yeah, it kept going back.
Right. But we were only launching the page once. And so I don't know if this is because you had different tabs open and the tabs auto refresh. But let's put a breakpoint here. Like I would put it there on line 35 after we've initialized all those variables.
Sure.
And yeah, let's just run this.
Is this a good place? Should we put the breakpoint lower?
We don't need a breakpoint in here for now because the data that comes into the HTML is going to come from the page model anyways.
Okay.
So yeah, let's run this and see what data comes back. Because, yeah, there's definitely something we haven't been able to replicate yet, which could be the key.
Yeah. Just one more time dropping that data so that we're showing that it is there. All right. Go, computer, go. Okay.
So the first time we hit it, authors from database has 7. That's what we want.
Count 2.
So, okay. Now I'm curious. Oh yeah, all those pages were all also reloading. Okay, let's stop everything because we already had multiple tabs open.
Yeah.
Close all the tabs referencing this website.
Okay.
So that
even the one that's
even this one, and then let's just stop it. Oh, it already stopped itself.
Yep.
Okay, let's run this now.
Yeah, it should, because every time you close Chrome, if you're not closing the tabs, it's remembering, and I wish you wouldn't, Chrome. Okay, cool.
Okay, so we hit the breakpoint. Do we have poems?
Because we didn't drop the database first.
Well, hang on. Let's just continue with this experiment. We don't have to stop it yet. So go ahead and hit that continue button. Okay, cool. So the constructor only did get called once.
Okay.
And yeah, you're also right. We didn't. The difference between this time and the last time was we didn't drop the table. Mm-hmm. So yeah, let's drop the table. Let's see if we can reproduce that.
Exit the tab. Exit this. There's a very specific set of instructions to follow. It's always fun to drop tables, guys. It's not.
Yeah, it
It's
actually
not
kind of
nerve
is.
wracking. It's not nerve wracking every time I do it at all.
On the local database, it's fine.
I still get nervous. All right, so let's try it again. Okay. All right. Yep. Count 2.
Okay. And so if you hit continue, yeah, then that loads. We didn't hit the breakpoint again. And this is what we want.
Yeah.
But if you refresh the page, just here in the
Right.
browser, then the breakpoint hits again. And this should be where our poems disappear.
Yep.
Oh.
Like, is it trying to like reseed the database somehow? Is it something in? Hold on. This is me thinking, never having worked with this. Is it something in here?
It could be. Yeah. You want to slap a breakpoint on there? We can check that out.
Because it makes me think that like something in the ensure created. It's like, oh, maybe it's not created, and it's trying to put something in there, but there's nothing to put in there, so it's ensuring it's created when it already exists. What is data here right now? If data is DBC.
Yeah, it's because we were using generic, so we wanted to make sure that data was authors. Because data could also be a poem. And so this allowed us to ensure that data was always...
The counts too in the author list.
But what's weird is you're not breaking on any of these breakpoints.
No, I know.
I'm not sure why this is working right now. You're just holding your mouse over the constants. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So those constants, yeah.
Should I refresh or continue or?
You
I
probably have
added
to.
these breakpoints.
Yeah, you probably have to stop and relaunch the app. I think that code only runs at startup.
Okay.
Use Entity Framework, they said.
It makes it easier.
It's easy, they
to
said.
be fair, if someone was like, use a reciprocating saw, it's easier. You're like, yeah, but I gotta learn to use it first. And drop Johnny drop tables again. And let's run it again. This is the best stream of all time.
Just
Okay.
no clue what's going on. Trying to figure it all out.
Alright, it's ensuring it's created. Let's step over. Let's step over. It took us all the way to... It skipped this because it was...
Like if you mouse over data, it should be our poem entity. Or it's just nothing. Well, that's okay. Well, or at least it's a data point. So it wasn't our authors database. But again, this database context is being used for both poems and authors inside of a generic class. So we expect it not to go through the if statement at least once, and we expect it to go through the if statement at least once.
Okay. And then just click continue and see what happens, huh?
Mm-hmm.
And now it's come back, right? Because now it's checking in either poem or author, whichever one. And then it gets to the if. And it goes into the if this time.
Okay, so now we're in the authors database. And that's where we seed the data.
You expected it to not go into to read the if and say, oh, we're good, even though there wasn't a database created at that time?
So you got to remember, we're reusing this code for both poem
Uh
database
huh.
and author database.
Right.
And you'll hit this breakpoint whenever we call the poem database. And this whole block of code right here is only talking about authors. So we're literally checking to see if the data is a DB set of type author.
Mm-hmm.
And so if it's not, just ignore it. And so yeah, anytime the poem database code runs,
Mm-hmm.
should should skip over it.
So it's not a problem that we're not checking that poem database is in fact created. Because is that possibly related to our problem? Because it's not finding poems.
I mean, so
I know,
database dot ensure created will check to make sure that a database exists, and if it doesn't, it'll create one.
right.
So that line of code only executes once, and I don't know, man. I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm not concerned about anything yet.
Okay.
So I expected us to go inside of this if statement once and then never again.
Okay. And now we're
And
at this breakpoint at the one in index in the model page.
I mean, it could have something to do with the fact that we're seeding the database here in code. But man, those relationships.
So since this is the first time we're doing it, we've got our count is 2 still. Also, I know why. I just realized I know why the random button isn't working. It's because the count is 0. That's why we're
Yeah.
out of range.
That'll definitely do it. So it's all related. And so yeah, just trying to figure out what's the simplest way to play with this, and we still don't know what the problem is. The only hunch I have right now is that we have 2 database contexts, and that's screwing things up. But then I'm seeing things elsewhere where there's multiple database contexts, and I don't know. Is it good? Is it not good? We are guessing, but
Pretty much. That's all we do is guess, really.
so yeah, let's rip it out. I see another test we can run. Let's move that database context into its own class.
DB context into its own class.
Yeah, so in base
database?
database,
Yeah.
we're just going to do a cut. Yeah, so cut all that out. And we'll make a new file.
New class.
Yeah, that's fine.
And we're going to call it the DB context.
Let's see. Let me look at the other naming. Probably just let's do authors DB context.
Okay.
And what folder did you put that in?
That's such a good question.
Because we'll wanna drop it in that databases folder.
Yeah.
But I didn't even see it show up.
I did it right here. Uh-huh. In the databases folder, right?
Yeah.
This might take a long time. No, it won't.
Right.
It's 34 lines of code. All right.
Okay.
There we are.
So we'll have to bring in some using statements. Like you'll have to right click on DB context and let it know that, yes, this is from Entity Framework Core. And then what we can do now, so we're not going to use generics anymore. So that data of type T,
Yeah.
that's going away. That's going to be just the actual values. So that'll be author, and you'll have to bring in that namespace. Yep. And instead of data, we can now call it authors. And we'll do the same thing for poems.
And here.
Well, so line 23, we want to copy paste that and do that again for poems. So we're going to have, this one class that essentially gives access to all the database layer stuff, which was what I was trying to avoid at the beginning, but something's not working. So the other thing we want to do is we still do want to seed the database. So our logic and that if block is going to be tweaked a little bit. We don't have to check the data anymore. We can just say if authors.any and so do a open close parenthesis there because that's a method, and we want to do the negative. So if there's if there's not any authors, so we're gonna delete we're gonna delete that other stuff. Yep, and then instead of authordb.addRange, it's authors.addRange. And then nullability stuff. So go ahead and bring in the namespace for poems constants. That's why you're getting the red squiggle there. And then if you just do a question mark in between authors and .any, that should get rid of that green squiggle. Okay, we have to give it a default value. So the problem here is authors could be null, and that's why we're getting that green squiggle. The question mark will say, let's do a quick null check, and if it's not, then we'll ignore it. But now the problem is the any part doesn't resolve, and the any is what gives us a true false. So we have to give it a null value, essentially. So we can say question mark false. I'm sorry, after any. So authors question mark dot any. Yep. And that says, so question mark says if there's anything on the left side, then, well, let me explain what's going on here first. Sometimes .NET's smart enough to figure out our code. Sometimes it's not. But so yeah, the question mark says if what is on the left side of this is null, execute what's on the right side.
Okay. And
so basically saying if authors is null, then resolve to false.
Yeah.
But the way .NET works, it tries to figure out if there's still a null path. And if there is not explicitly, if there's no way that authors can be null and we can be inside of this if statement, then it won't give us the green squiggle. But they don't have every single scenario baked in. So,
right.
All right, so let's unroll this if statement a bit, and we'll just say if authors doesn't equal null and authors.any. So we'll explicitly tell
equals null and then make it Also, I'm gonna learn to spell.
So not like that. We're gonna say authors doesn't equal. So authors
Oh,
exclamation point equal sign
yeah.
null. And now we can get rid of. So now we can get rid of the question mark between authors and any, and we can get rid of the question mark false, because now we know authors definitely can't be null.
Okay. Yeah, there we
And
go.
yeah, so what we did first was totally valid. It's just this is called the Roslyn analyzer, the thing that gives you the green and red squiggles.
Oh. Thanks, Rosalind.
Yeah, Roslyn just couldn't figure out what we were doing. Okay, so we're seeding the data. We have authors, we have poems. What we also want to do is that model builder dot entity. We were doing default values for both author and poem. So we want to duplicate lines 31, 32. And yeah, just copy paste them and then just change author to poem. Okay. So,
Thank you so much for helping me do this, dude.
well, you're welcome, but I also got us into this mess.
I got us into this meth.
So we can also get rid of that protected keyword. So this can just be class database context.
And we're not trying to make it static like we did.
Oh, wait. Actually, we shouldn't have. You've got a nested class here. So delete lines 13, 14, and then author's DB context should be inheriting from DB context. That was just copy paste from. And then we have to match the constructor name. So the class name is author's DB context, so that should also be author's DB context.
Doing it the
And
hard
then we
way.
probably have an extra closing bracket at the bottom. No? Okay, good.
No.
Then it should be able to do Control
Wait,
KC.
do we? I think we.
If you do Control KC, it'll help sort everything out.
No, that's Control KC is
Yeah. And can you shift your window? I guess. There we
There
go.
it is. Found it.
Yeah,
Found it.
okay.
There
It was
an
just hiding
extra
from
one.
us. Okay, so now that this exists in its own class, now we have to let's go simple first. Hang on. let's look at the docs. Let's not make stuff up again. DB context, dependency injection, speed.net core. So I saw an example while I was Googling around, and there's a line of code I saw that explicitly allowed us to add a DB context to our dependency injection container. And if that exists, then I don't know, we should probably use it. Or do we need to? I don't know. Let's see. What's this person say?
Error inside of our new author's DV context where the connection string isn't recognized. Because it must not be a global. It's a field that we took from.
Oh, yeah, that was a field that still exists in base database.
Yeah.
So let's go cut and paste that.
Okay.
So that's at
read-only
the
static
top
string.
of base database. Yeah. So we just need to paste that into,
Authors DB context.
yeah. And you can cut and paste because we got to delete this code out of base database eventually.
Okay. Well,
But now we have to go get that method too.
good times.
So yeah, while you're in here, go ahead and delete that connection string line of code in base database. And then
this, where else did I pull? No, that's it.
we
then
need
we
that
need
method.
this.
Yeah.
Nope, just through here.
You can bring that comment with it too. That was a very helpful Stack Overflow answer.
It always is. All right. It's never not helpful. And we just need to stick it at the bottom.
Yeah. I think you went too far down.
Did I go too far?
One more curly bracket inside,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
There
All
we
right.
go. There we go. Regex.
Bring in the namespaces.
Should be. And then connection string should be working. And yeah. Okay.
All right. So, oh man.
What'd you find?
I mean, we're gonna do this and we're gonna see if it works, but it's like so much of this is just a guess. But if it works, hallelujah. So
Hey.
so yeah, if we go back into base database, we can still use this code. And definitely for now, it'll be helpful because everything's still valid. So scroll all the way up. We should have a constructor, or we don't have a constructor. Okay, cool. So all these red squiggles where it says new database context,
Yeah.
we can replace that now. So we can inject the database context into base database. So if we create a constructor for base database, we can pass in yeah, so you say public base database, and then in here we'll just pass in the author's what do we call it? Author database. No, author's DB context. And okay, yep. So create a parameter name for that. This is hang on, stop. This is a constructor, so we need to give author's DB context a variable name.
Oh Lord.
And then we're going to do an open, close, curly bracket.
Let's do. I mean, we can do author. Nope. Dang it. That's. Sorry.
Yeah, and so no semicolon, open, close, curlies. And now we can create a read-only field to hold on to author DB context. The read-only field will live outside of the constructor, so I would put it above. Ba, 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 ba. I hope this works.
No, it's a field.
I just need to give it its type name. So it should be read only authors DB context space underscore author DB context.
Can you tell it's been a while since I've done this? I've
And no equal sign.
JavaScript a lot lately. God, it's been a while. I'm looking like an idiot on the internet right now. Okay.
All right, so we just need to now link those two together. So inside of the constructor, we can now say, we can assign the field, right? So we can say authors DB context equals author DB context. And then, whew, yeah. So now instead of saying using var connection, um, is this the right way to do it?
I'm very happy to be seeing this insight into exactly what my job will be one day. Is this right? Is this going to work? And then saying, well, we're going to try it. And then if it doesn't work, saying, well, let's figure it out.
Because I know the code that I have in my head will compile, but yeah, just trying to think like 4 steps ahead. And the fact that you can add a DB context directly to our service collection, the fact that that exists tells me we should probably be using it. But so that's why I'm hesitating now to inject this in. Let me look up some more. back to the docs.
Always.
So, show me code. Da, 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 da. Okay, so we got all that. So register the context. I guess I can share this with the world, and we can all read along.
Hooray!
So yeah, what I'm looking at here is, so it's saying ASP.NET Core includes dependency injection. Services is EF database are registered with dependency injection during app startup, and so it's telling us, see this line of code here, this services.add DB context.
Uh-huh.
Maybe I should make that a little bigger. So this is what I'm thinking we should do now that we have the DB context in its own class. We should probably be doing it like this. But then the next question I have is, how do we then reference? Oh, here we go. So initialize DB with test data. There's a DB initializer class. How does that get called? So yeah, like this is just a completely different architecture, which not a problem. Probably more of a problem that I just architected everything so poorly to begin with. Well, I don't know. I thought it was a good idea.
It's the only way I know how right now, so.
I had a great idea. So, yeah, I mean, we should probably follow the docs. So I'm thinking we should add this code, and then we should change how we're seeding it, because the docs do it differently. I mean, part of the problem, or maybe one of the fun things with code, is like there's always a million different ways to do everything.
Right.
And maybe the path we were going down would totally work. But if this is the way that the Microsoft docs recommend doing it, and at the same time we're hitting a problem we don't know why we're hitting it,
yeah,
it's always good to just fall all the way back. You know, let's just say, obviously something I did was wrong. I apologize. So, yeah, go ahead and pull up your screen again, PJ, and let's do this the right way.
All right.
So let's ignore base database. We're probably going to end up just deleting all this code. But for right now, let's not
ignore the whole thing.
What we can do in Solution Explorer, because I don't want to delete these files yet.
Yeah.
Because, again, who knows if what we're about to do will work. So, yeah, you can just right-click on them like you did and say Properties, and we can just tell them not to compile. So that build action where it says C# compiler,
Okay.
you can just change that to none.
Okay.
And the compiler will just ignore these files. And you can do that with authors authors database.
Okay.
The authors DB context is what we just created. We want to keep that.
And
But yep. So you can see all those red squiggles go away because it's almost like these files don't exist anymore.
yeah.
But they're still there if for whatever reason we get through all this stuff we're about to do and it doesn't work.
Sure.
Then, oh man, if that happens, who knows?
Oh man.
So yeah, if we go all the way to the what's that file called? Is it startup.cs? All the way at the bottom, yeah.
There it is.
And here, where we're registering these services, yep.
Yeah.
So we'll say, obviously, we'll get rid of both those lines because those files don't exist anymore.
I'm just gonna comment them out for now.
Oh, you can just delete them.
Okay.
Those are easy.
Hey.
Yeah, the other files I didn't want to delete them because there's like 100 lines of code, but
Yeah.
with those, like, whatever, one line of code. So yeah, there's this feature that I just discovered this morning that says add database context or add DB context. So type in add D and let's see. There it is, add DB context. Cool. So we'll pass in the type with that open angle bracket.
Carrot.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's gonna be type
And this
author
is
DB context.
Yep. Cool. And then in here, oh, actually, let's clean up that author DB context before I forget. So, yeah, dive into there because the way we're seeding this was, we'll say, not the recommended approach by the docs. So just blow away that whole if block.
Okay.
And actually, even that. Actually, blow away the whole constructor.
Wait, really?
Yep. We're going to call database ensure created somewhere else now.
All right.
And then we're going to pull out this connection string stuff and move it to the startup file as well. So we're going to, you can cut and paste that into startup. And we can cut and paste that in startup.
Okay. So gonna cut, and that goes into startup. Where in startup should we put it? In
Somewhere towards the bottom. Yeah. Literally at the bottom.
and then I gotta go back and I gotta grab the connection string here.
And actually, you know what? We don't necessarily need. Yeah, we can leave that that field on the cutting room floor. So what we do want to do here is we're going to delete line 19. Yeah. And that should be it for red squiggles in this class. I think so. Mm-hmm. We'll find out later if we missed any. But back in startup.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's do a open close parenthesis here for adding this DB context. So now what we do, we'll say options inside of the parenthesis. I'm sorry. Yeah, so you say options go to, so the equal sign angle bracket.
Yeah. Fat arrow.
Yeah, fat arrow. Options fat arrow. Options dot use MySQL. Or
But hold on.
whatever that line of code was that we just deleted.
Goes to options dot use MySQL. There we go.
Yeah. Nice. And then that's a method. So inside of that, then we'll just say get connection string or create connection string, whatever that method is called. Looks like it's get connection string.
Nice. Good catch.
And then that's a method. So cool. So this is how we're initializing the database now,
Okay.
which, to be honest, that's a lot simpler than what we were doing. So cheers to that. And
we need to add the regex.
oh yeah, the namespaces.
And then we need to add. Oh, that's all in index now. We're having troubles here for the constructor here.
Oh yeah, we'll get to all that stuff.
Okay.
Don't.
Don't talk about it yet.
Yeah, I'm not ready for it yet. So back in startup,
Okay.
there's another line of code after the one we just added that says services dot add database developer page exceptions filter. So if you probably type in add database, oh man, it's not going to show up. I'll just share this with the world. Drop it in the chat.
Oh. Alright, so it is. Nope, didn't show up there. Un segundo.
Oh, that's weird. It just said it. We just lost connection to
my stream? My stream's good. I wouldn't worry about it.
Or maybe just lost connection to the chat.
That's all good. I don't need to know what people are saying to me. Alright. Services add database developer page exception filter. And then I'm going to paste that in, and then we'll be able to add the namespace.
Yep. And don't forget to bring your screen back up.
Oh, yeah. About that.
Boop.
And introduce local
Oh.
for. Oh, no. Oh, no.
Oh, that's weird. Why does this... Where does that exist? Let's ignore it for now. We don't actually need it.
Okay.
It may be helpful later, but yeah, you can just delete that line of code.
Okay.
Okay. So the next thing it does, or this tutorial does, is dun 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 dun.
Spanish classic. Absolute classic.
Let's see. So this says context. Sure. Okay. So it creates a class called DB Initializer. We can do that. That's fine. So yeah, in that database folder, let's create this class.
DB initializer.
Yeah, that's what they called it. Why not?
Okay.
Host.
We did it.
Run. So just looking a couple steps ahead. Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah, we're getting closer. So, all right. So you're in this class. Go ahead and make it a static class. And let's add a public static method, public static void, initialize. And initialize is going to need our author's DB context. So let's pass that in as a parameter. So, yep.
And how are we using this in the... Because I mean, I don't want to call it author's DB context again, because that feels... Whatever.
That's
I can.
what I was going to do. I guess you could say context. That's
fine.
I mean, it's just a variable name.
Yeah.
So this is now where we're going to say context.database.ensure created. Or authors db context.database.ensure created. I'm sorry. Dot database
Thank you.
dot ensure created. Basically the code we had in another place. And that's a method. Ensure created is a method. And then we'll say if authors database dot was it authors dot any.
If authors db context dot any or
Dot authors dot any. So this is where we're checking to see if there's any authors that exist in the database.
Yeah.
And then we'll say let's do a negative. So let's do the exclamation point at the beginning of that. So if there's not any authors, then we'll go inside the if statement. Again, just like the code we had earlier. And then the next line, what do we say? Oh, let me see how they're doing it. Yeah, okay, cool. Same way we did it. So authors db context dot authors dot add range. And then pass in our poem constants. And whatever that file name's called. Poem constants dot
It's a
author list.
author list.
And then the next line after that, authors db context dot save changes. Yeah, nullability again. So yeah, just make sure authors db context doesn't equal null. The first line of that if statement. Nah, we'll have to say.
We have to do it like we did before, right?
Yeah, I gotta be pretty explicit with Roslyn. It's like, if there's no way this is null, then we can move forward. And the ampersand, so and.
Yeah. I always forget what number the ampersand is. And so
Oh, I'm sorry. Authors db context dot authors doesn't equal null.
Thank you.
All
I
right.
always have to go like this when I have to find the ampersand.
It is kind of an obscure character.
Quick, what number is it?
Okay. 7. But I'm looking
Dang
at
it.
the keyboard.
Well, you cheated. That wasn't
No, I totally cheated. Okay. So now we go to the program file. So the file called program.
What?
Yeah, all the way at the bottom.
Okay.
It's next to startup.
Got him.
And in here, okay. So instead of having one line of code in main, we're going to break this up a little bit. So right now it says create hostbuilder.build.run. Delete.run. And let's get the variable that build returns. So, and delete the dot too. And we're just going to say, on the left side of that, we'll say var host equals.
On the left side of this?
Yeah.
Hold on.
And
Capital
yeah.
Var host equals.
So now we can say create. Oh, wait. What's going on here? Context services, get across. This is kind of some copy paste code here.
Okay.
Let me see if I can get you to it. Is this? What did I already share in the chat?
What did you share? In
I'll
our
just
chat?
put it in the private chat. So yeah, click on that link. This will be easier than me trying to dictate it aloud.
All right, so here.
Oh no, I put it in the private chat.
Oh, I think I must have messed that up. Hold up.
So nobody else can see it.
That's right. We don't want them to see. And yeah, and yep, and yes. Share. Okay. Here we go.
All right, so that's what we just did. There we go. So that, yeah, that highlighted method, just copy paste that.
Okay. And let's see. This is in program.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
So I would just put it at the bottom. Too far down.
Too far.
There we go. Oh, man.
Using dependency injection, and we got to change
So-
school context to author DB context.
That's right. And we made that class called DB Initializer, so that should exist.
So we just got to bring it in.
Hopefully. Yep. And cool. So now we can use it. So back in that main method on line 18, we created that host variable.
Yeah.
So yeah, the next line of code was to call the method that we just copy pasted. So to say create database if not exists,
Create
and then
DB if
passing
not exists.
in that host. And now we can run the website. So now the next line of code, you can say host.run.
It's just that simple.
Whew. Okay.
Dude, thank you.
Let's see. Did we miss anything yet? All right. So now we can go back to where you just were saying there's a bunch of red squiggles. In what was that class? Yeah, index. Perfect. So in index, these author database, poem database, those don't exist anymore. We just have a context. Mm-hmm. So we're going to pass in the author DB context into the constructor. Is it authors?
I think you're right. Yeah. Yep.
Cool. And then, yeah, I would change the local variable name to be author DB context as well.
Oh.
And then here, so this is the part that's this is where I'm a little disappointed, because we created all this code to say, like, anytime you need to get something from the database, you just can call get all data. Mm-hmm. But the problem now is we actually have to write that query. So, so for authors from database, we say author DB context dot authors, and that's a property, so we don't need the method. Yeah. And we're getting yelled at because that's a DB set. Say dot. Let's look at what's IntelliSense give us here. I don't remember. Not find, not add. I think like a get or as queryable might be what we're looking at.
As queryable.
What does that return? That returns an iQueryable of authors. Actually, you could probably say you got two lists. Is that valid?
I think you have to specify a type with to list.
I'm doing open close parenthesis. Cool. So that works.
Nice.
All right, and we can delete that var temp line of code.
Yeah, that was we were just checking.
Okay, so we have that field, that author database on line 36. That should be an author's DB context. You're going to start seeing a pattern.
A lot of this.
And then rename that to author's DB context. Yeah. Because we're basically just changing the entry point into our database. And the reason I don't love this is we essentially had the database locked away, and you had to go through those two files, that author database file. And now we've essentially, by passing around the DB context, we're passing around the keys to the database. So it's like, hey, anybody want to do anything they want with the database? Go for it.
Have fun.
So that's why I didn't want to architect it like this to begin with, but we hit a bug. So, for whatever reason, my idea was not the best idea.
That's all good. All right.
And that's all good.
And it's all great.
And so, authors from database. Okay. So that should be all good now. And then we probably have another page or two, like probably the poets page model. We'll have to do the same thing, I imagine. Inside the pages folder.
Posts. There you go.
Yeah, so that has poem database coming in.
So we need to use author's DB context.
Yeah.
Context. Nope, please finish for me. Like, I feel like you're smart.
just read my mind.
Come on. And then read only author's DB context. We're calling that. And then down here it's
So is the worst part. Just the hand jamming.
I mean, it's what I'm best at so far. And then,
You remember how to get the poets?
I gotta look again, and that was in. That was here. So it's authors.toList.
Do you want to get the authors?
Listen, first day.
Whew. Does this compile yet? Let's try to run it.
Poem database. And
Oh, we got another poem database.
Add poet.
One more page. One more page.
Yeah.
Whew. Man. Yeah, it's funny. We haven't even gotten to migrating databases yet. And I thought that was going to be the challenging part of today.
Sometimes the thing you don't know is the thing that's harder.
Yeah. I'd almost say what you don't know is always the hardest part.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what, and actually we talk about
don't
how
know what you don't
important
know.
it is. It's important to understand where your understanding ends, and that's a big part of metacognition, which is a big part of learning. So with students, like especially teenagers, they'll get really frustrated when they come upon a problem and they don't even know the first thing about it. And so
Yeah, which is ironic.
teach kids that. Yeah. Uh-oh. Parameterless constructor.
Oh. Okay. Let's jump into authors DB context. I thought we deleted that constructor. Maybe we didn't.
Oh. Yeah,
There's
we
no
did.
constructor here. Ah, shoot. Read it again. I made an assumption. I should have read the error message. Something else does not have a
with
parameterless
configuration.
constructor.
But authors DB context only declares a parameterless construction. This means configuration, view, details.
So next to message, you can click that magnifying glass.
Sorry.
Yeah, that one right there. So add DB context was called with configuration, but the context type only declares. Oh, that's silly. Okay, hang on. I missed. So we are supposed to have a constructor
Okay.
in authors DB context, and I missed that. So I'm
Is it
just
in the
scrolling back
docs
to
that
the
you sent?
docs. Okay, I see. Yeah, I can dictate. Oh, actually, yeah. If you scroll up, let's see on the right. See where it says create. Oh, you're almost there. Right there, actually. See that constructor? Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Da
in-
da 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 da.
and that's an authors DB context public.
Yeah.
So
And then yeah, there's two. And then we just need the open close parentheses on the constructor. We're not putting anything in it. So yeah, the next line, like line 15. I'm sorry, I said open close parenthesis, curly bracket.
oh, there we go.
Ah!
Okay.
Yeah, so you can see what's going on here. It looks like the class DB context that we're inheriting from allows us to pass in options.
Mm-hmm.
So we're essentially doing that here in authors DB context. We're not touching the options, we're just passing them straight through.
Yeah.
But if we look at the startup class, this makes a little bit more sense now because you can see here it says these are the options. So like we're setting
yeah,
the options up here and it's just kind of passing its way through.
Okay.
So that makes more sense now. I was just kind of thinking it was more entity framework magic.
Nope. Entity framework will not make a constructor for you.
Ah.
Okay.
Okay, well the website launched.
Yeah.
And
That's
we
good.
still have the same problem? No way. Let's start over. No, not start over, but let's drop the table.
Yeah.
I don't think we dropped the database.
We didn't, but there was a hope that we wouldn't have to after having done all this. Alright, that's dropped. Let's do this.
Oh man, because yeah, if this doesn't work, ah.
Wild. What is going on?
So we re-architected our entire database layer to follow the docs to a T, and something still isn't right.
It's got to be something in the way we're calling it.
Oh man.
Like when we go into the database, like when we look
Yeah,
at
that's a good point.
this,
Is the data still there?
and it's connected to the author ID. It is like 7 is Martina Spada. So the data's there. We've got URLs. We've got poems. Our code isn't reading the database.
So, I mean, we're basically back to where we started.
We're exactly where we were an hour and a half ago.
Yeah.
But at the very least, we're matching the docs now. But like, I know it's stupid, but we've got that out of the way. That your architecture worked.
Oh, maybe. We'd have to. I mean, I want to keep moving forward with this architecture to find the fix.
Yeah.
But then maybe out of spite, yeah, I'll go back and see if my architecture still works.
Maybe out of spite.
I do a lot of things out of spite. So yeah, man, let's I guess go back to the page model for index. Put a breakpoint where we had the last breakpoint, say like line 35. And let's run the website and see. Man. So yeah, let's just run it.
I almost want to go piece by piece through the for each loop too, and see at what point it doesn't have it.
You don't have to, because the for each loop is just iterating over that authors from database property that we're looking at here.
Okay.
So if the authors from database property doesn't contain the data, then the for each loop isn't going to contain the data. So we can save a couple clicks. So authors from database. 7 authors with no poems. So the nice thing here about having this database context is we can actually look at authors db context dot poems. So there's all your poems right there. Let's see. Are we actually able to drill into anything in the debugger? What's under results? Okay, so there's our poems. And let's look into these poems. And the poem's totally there.
Author is your new favorite poems.models.author.
And there's the author. So expand author just to... What?
Wait a minute. Are we literally just not telling it how to find it correctly? Do we have a wrong path?
It's, yeah.
What are we in?
Yes?
Right now? What are we in right now?
We're in Bizarro World. That's where we are.
We're in the context. Inside the database context. Inside of poems. Inside of results. Inside of the individual poem. And when we look in author, it knows it's making the connection. The context, the database context is working. We are not pulling it out correctly. We're asking the computer for the wrong thing.
It might be... Okay, so this is interesting. So, again, just talking out loud, you're totally right. What we just found was when we pull the poems from the database, that Entity Framework does all the mappings right. And so when we say, hey, Entity Framework, give us a poem, it knows that poem has an author, and it's using the foreign keys and the IDs all properly. So that's great. The magic's magicking just the way we want it to. And when we look at the author inside of the poem, so if we go into the poem, then into the author, then the author has 2 poems. But if we query the author directly, then it doesn't. So I wonder, remember that method that we added in is the mapping, right? Like it was like authors have one or many poems and poems have one author.
Yeah. Was that in? Was it one
I think it now lives in our authors DB context file.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that
that's
one right here.
many.
Hover your mouse over has one. What does that return? Can we get some IntelliSense on?
It's
Maybe
not
yeah.
giving it
Delete
to
the
me.
parenthesis and redo the parenthesis just to.
Oh, I'm currently running. Is that okay? Will I get IntelliSense right now?
It looks like it. So that returns an entity type builder. Hmm. So let's. Gosh. Oh my gosh. If this is it. So Control Z. Let's put that code back where we found it. But let's do another line. So let's say model builder dot entity author had like basically do the same thing, but from the other direction. You know what I mean?
So entity type author.
Mm-hmm. So author has many. And like I'm totally guessing here, but that's the fact that poems know about authors and then it's resolved correctly is this is the only thing I can where I can put two and two together. Um,
Don't ref.
I hate that about
There we go.
let's see if this works.
This will be amazing.
Because I'm not going crazy, right? Because what we just saw was the poem knew about the author,
Yeah.
and then inside of the author inside of the poem, it knew about the other author's poems.
Uh-huh.
And so that's why I'm thinking like that one line of code was that what told about that relationship.
So then
And so all we needed
way.
was one more line of code going the other direction? Maybe?
What a wild.
Why is my
situation
voice getting
we
so
found
high?
ourselves in. Am I going crazy?
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
All right. So
Oh.
here's our breakpoint.
Zero. Not what I was hoping for.
Not at all.
I really thought I found it.
So, and that when we're going through authors, like authors from database, count 0. But when we go through the DB context, that's interesting. When we go through the poems, so we go author, DB context,
Right.
go through poems, go to results, and find the author that way, it finds it. But if we go DB context authors, no. Wait, no, yes.
Wait. Hang on. Go all. Yeah, I think you're too. Okay.
Okay. DB
Then
context.
yeah, if we go to authors,
authors,
the authors have no poems.
no, now it does. Then why does authors from database? What's happening? It was 0. It was 0. Right?
Oh my god, I'm so glad this is
saw
being recorded.
You saw it
Okay.
too. It was 0. I'm clicking continue. I'm just clicking continue. Cool. Exiting the block after 66 mils. And then they're gone.
But you could continue twice.
It
And I
took
see
me-
that you have another tab still open.
It took... Oh, it just tried... It was the second tab. Alright. Well, look. Now that we're here.
I don't like this game.
Now we're at 0. I'm very sure that a second ago.
Yeah. So wait, walk through that tree again. Go through author DB context,
Author DB
poems.
context. Poems, results.
And then if you go through the author here, it's like, oh yeah, we found all these poems with this author.
Mm-hmm.
And now stepping through authors, yeah. Interesting. So it's almost like if we don't resolve the poems first, I got a crazy idea. Let's stop running the code.
Sounds good. And set our computer on fire and get this.
A little bit. But let's add a new line before... After line 32.
Okay.
Let's say var temp equals author DB context dot poems dot toList. So we'll force the code to do what we just did and iterate through that. And so, yeah, it's just a lowercase author DB context.
That's important.
Or actually, I just noticed your parameter name is author DB context.
Jesus, is it? Hold on, I'm fixing that.
So,
Okay.
So yeah, maybe there's something where when you have these frameworks or we have these entities mapped to each other,
You have to
entity
look at
framework,
one table first.
it doesn't make sense. But if this works, what I want to do, because like my brain's broken right now, and whenever I hit a spot like this, it's always best for me to like walk away.
I'm fully prepared to get to that point because like that is what is the best idea right now.
Because yeah, so let's run this.
Okay.
I want to see if this works. And if
drop
it
the table
does,
again.
we'll just we'll create a new branch. We'll commit this code because we did a ton of stuff.
Is this going to be our third branch now? Because we have the main branch, the database networking branch, and then we'll have entity framework exactly as the docs say to do it branch.
Something like that. I mean,
Something like that.
we'll massage the names a little bit, but basically, like if this was the reason I want to do a branch instead of just committing all this code is I want to see if what we learned today can be applied to the previous architecture. So like, can we just jump back to the previous branch, add in the 2 lines of code that look like the magic
Code, yeah. The magic code.
Because that'll help at least my brain put a bow on it. So what do we get?
Count is 2, 4.
Okay.
That's authors from database. That's 2.
And that's what we want. So that's good.
DB context. Authors. Results view. Count 2. Count 2.
And so let's run this. This is good.
Okay.
So this, yeah, we'll just say it's good for right now. And then let's refresh the page because this was the bug that started it all.
7 seconds.
7 milliseconds. Oh, wait. Oh, that's a comma.
7,635 milliseconds.
Oh, maybe.
Oh, since the previous breakpoint. Sorry. So, yes, that's correct because we hit the breakpoint and then I messed around and then I clicked refresh. Okay. And we're going to look at authors from database.
All right. So
It's there, apparently.
again, when things don't make sense like this, but it's working, great. This is like where you hit the save button. This is why I want to put it on another branch. And then just like, these are the crazy moments in programming where you just kind of got to like step away. we went so far deep into the woods, we can't see the forest for the trees. And I know, like, I'm going to be walking the dog later and be like, oh, I bet it's because of da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, it'll make sense later, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I'm hoping, because right now I don't know nothing. It's
but,
working.
But I will say, the takeaway from, and I think this is the same bug that existed in the previous architecture. I don't think the architecture was the problem.
No, I agree.
But I would also like to confirm that. Again, mostly out of spite. But it looks like...
I'm trying to do it in Visual Studio. Hold on. That's not what I want. I'm more comfortable with this.
But yeah, just to sum up,
yeah,
mostly from my brain, to settle this, it looks like we did everything correctly. That I think the initial mappings we had were all good. And just make sure what you're doing here to branch off of add author database table instead of, it always defaults to branching off of master.
Okay.
There you go. And you can keep going. I just wanted to
that's all good.
make sure
yeah.
it didn't.
Give him the summary.
So, yeah, it looked like the solution is just we had to, I'm going to say, crawl through the poem database first. And then those relationship mappings will be there for the author. I said database. Comb through the poems.
Yeah.
Thanks, Karma Chameleon. Yeah, so it looks like we had to first walk through all the poet tables or poem tables, and then Entity Framework would use that to make the mappings for author. And that's the only thing that I can figure out right now. And I'm kind of thinking, just really quickly, I mean, and yes, you do want to bring your changes.
Okay.
So I'm thinking, let's commit this code, because this code's working now. And actually, you know what? Let's clean up. Let's just go ahead and delete those old files that we said not to compile.
Okay.
Because this, at least for this branch, we don't need them anymore. And
it's be the database. That's going to be poem database.
Yeah. Pretty much everything in there except the author's DB context.
Is there not just a delete?
What? Oh, because the code's running.
I'm running.
It's like, what? How did we break that?
You're not allowed to delete it. Poem database deleted. Author database deleted.
And even that base database.
Even base database.
Beautiful, beautiful base database.
Aww.
Ah.
So DB initializer and author's DB context is all we need now.
Yep.
Okay.
One other thing I want to try. Did we need this second, like line 26? Let's comment that out.
Oh, and see if
and yeah, let's run the code again. Because I assumed line 25 would do it, because it said poems had an author with a poem. Like, it looked like it was looping back on itself.
Yeah. Oh, the breakpoint.
Breakpoint. Yeah. So let's check the values here.
Cool.
All right, so we didn't need it. Good to know. So we can go ahead and delete that line of code. And yeah, man, it looks like, I mean, we're going to go ahead and commit and save this code before we switch back. But I think if we jump back to the other branch.
By the way, the random button's working.
Look at us.
And that's because, and that's what we thought earlier, was that the count was off because it was saying there's no poems.
Yep, which makes sense. That's good. If it was still broken, that would have been that's a whole other rabbit hole.
Alright, so we were in
author DB context,
Author DB context,
and we can just delete that line of code. So
okay.
cool. Yeah, let's save this now.
Okay, saved
And
here. All right, that's deleted. That's what we want. Authors DB context created. Base database deleted. DB initializer created. Poem database deleted. Author.
that's our converted.
Change the GUID to an int.
Wonder how that's going to break our production database, but
we'll see what happens. That we can always change back pretty easily, I think. There was only a few places where we changed that.
Because that might have also just been another red herring.
Yeah. Change the constructor, right? And the fields.
Yep.
Don't know what happened there.
Just added some white space.
Just for readability.
That
Anchors
looks
DB
good.
context, and poets. Yep, change that. Program, the stuff we added in program, and startup. Okay.
Cool.
All right.
And so, yeah, sorry, go ahead and put in whatever commit message. Just thinking the next step is we flip back to the other branch and see if that one line of code, that var temp equals poets, like walk through the poets database first before walking through the authors.
Yeah.
I keep saying database. Poets table, poets entity, poets context, anything other than database. Because they're both in the same database. But yeah, let's walk through the poets first, then walk through the authors, and we'll see what happens. And if that doesn't fix it, then okay, whatever. But
all right, so I'm going to commit this real quick. I'm going to publish that branch.
Faux show.
And then we're going to open up the other branch we have with the old architecture, right?
And add in.
Do I need to do this pull request to?
No. You can just flip the branch, and then it'll automatically change everything for you.
Okay, so I flipped that branch here, and are we on that branch here?
Yep.
You sure?
100%.
Okay.
Oh
yeah, there's the GUID. Okay.
So yeah, let's go back to the constructor for index.
I'm gonna erase this again first.
Oh, even doing a drop. All right.
No,
I mean that's the best test. Yeah.
Because it's the it's
it's the only way to know.
It's also as an int in here, and we're about to do it as a GUID. All right.
So yeah. Whoops.
So where are we going?
The constructor in index.
All right. So let's go to index, and we need this HTML. Okay. So we just need var temp equals. And
so inject in that poem database into the constructor. And then, we'll just say poem database dot get all data.
Oh, come on, you dumb machine. Doing exactly what I tell you to do. How dare you? Come on. There it is. And then we're adding...
No.
Oh,
above
wait,
it.
That's right. As the
gotta do it above. Gotta do it first.
Poem database dot get all data.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't want it as temp, right? We wanted it as like.
No, this is fine.
Database. This is fine.
Because this will force Entity Framework to basically crawl through the poet table, and it should make those mappings.
Okay.
So, if our understanding of Entity Framework is correct, then this was the bug fix that, I don't know, what have we been streaming for 2.5 hours?
Yeah.
This was the bug fix for 2.5 hours ago?
Okay, here's the breakpoint. There's count 2. Remember, this was the
I know. I'm trying to hold it back, but I'm so excited.
All right, there they are.
Oh! Nobody knows how Entity Framework works. Burn it to the ground.
It's all magic. It's fake. The dark wizards that control Entity Framework.
Okay, good. Well,
there was that thing that was different though. That was the pushing it to a list.
Careful switching branches right now. So every time you switch branches, literally in the file system, like if you had Windows Explorer open, you would see all the files change. And right now we're running the website in Visual Studio, and we would basically rip that out from underneath the website, which is going to cause that'd be all the errors. But yeah, you can see that drop down that says master.
Yeah.
Yep.
There we are. Okay,
and then you can just.
We were looking at. We did it like this before.
Yes.
We had to do that because this is the new architecture way of doing it.
Right. Okay. And so, yeah, if you go into that get all data method, that's basically what that's doing.
Okay.
So, trying to think of any other way that this, whatever.
Right? Like,
my architecture didn't work. We fixed it. And then there's this weird thing where we have to crawl through the poems first.
Yeah, whatever that's about.
And that's going to hopefully be my, like, the way I like to treat stuff like that is I kind of keep it in the back of my mind. Mm-hmm. And, like, as I'm going through the rest of the day, like, Kim and I are going to go on a little bike ride because it's beautiful. 60s and sunny here in California. And so... So yeah, like maybe on the bike ride, maybe when I'm walking the dog later, maybe we're gonna swing by some wineries and pick up a bottle of wine, enjoy it in the park by ourselves. Because don't go outside, don't be near other people. COVID is raging.
Bananas.
At least locally here in Napa County, it is raging bad.
Listen, I live in Florida. I don't know that we should be.
Well, in Florida, the virus doesn't exist, so
yeah, we're safe here because our governor said so.
But anyways, yeah. So this is something I'm going to be chewing on, and I don't know if we'll figure out why this is happening, but
yeah, it's kind of interesting that changing the because the previous framework seemed to be working. But just for some reason changing it and doing it the way the docs recommended it, at first it didn't work, and then we forced it to look at the poems first, and then it did. I don't know where to even start with this. I got nothing.
Yeah, I mean, one thought I have is, so we had multiple DB contexts, but we had two tables that were mapped to each other. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things we did, we took those two tables that are mapped to each other and put them inside of one DB context. Mm-hmm. So one thing I'm thinking is maybe you can have multiple DB contexts, but if there's a relationship between two tables, they need to be in the same one.
Maybe.
So that's one thing I'm thinking.
I mean, I'm thinking you need to call Mr. Entity Framework and see what he has to say about it. My dad, Mr. Entity Framework.
I wonder. I mean, I do know. So Jeremy Lickness is the PM of Entity Framework at Microsoft, and I consider Jeremy a good friend. So yeah, I wonder if we could get Jeremy on the show, or at least I could chat with him and just be like, hey man, obviously I have no idea what I'm doing, but like what I want to show him is the new code. So the latest branch with that temp line of code and without that temp line of code, and just be like, Jeremy, what's going on? So yeah, maybe
Luckily-
I can ping him this week.
Find that code at my GitHub. It's available. You can all take a look at it. If anyone ever sees it and goes, "Oh, you idiots! Here's why."
Yeah, just let us know.
Just do a pull request and be like, "Yeah, just fix it for us. It's fine."
Oh man. But the good news is, yeah, we fixed the bug.
Yeah,
And we didn't have to do any database migrations today.
that's
No,
great.
we've kicked that can.
That can on down the road. Join us in 5 months when we finally address data migrations.
It'll be the title of every episode for
That's right.
months.
We gonna do it today? Maybe.
Oh, it's like when you know you need to clean your room, but you're like, oh, but I also need to go grocery shopping, so
Yeah.
let me go grocery shopping. You're
I
like,
really, I gotta make sure I'm eating, so it's time for a lunch break. Really.
maybe take a nap first.
Yeah, you can't work when you're tired. So. All right.
Well, thanks, man.
This has been 2.5 hours with a guy who doesn't know what he's doing and PJ Metz.
Thanks for watching, and are we coming back next week? We're coming back next week, right?
I'd like
it's not
to,
the holidays
yeah.
yet.
Yeah, it's not the holidays yet, and even then, I'm gonna be hopefully streaming a lot during Christmas break. So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. All right. See
Then
you next
we'll
week.
see y'all next